let's talk about the game for a little bit. Let's talk about the game.
Okay, let's talk about the game.
When we last saw Justin Fields against Trevor Lawrence in the semifinals, Justin Fields was phenomenal.
Right.
And I had real questions about whether or not Justin Fields would even be able to play. It's not like there's transparency in college football injury like there is at the NFL level, and I wasn't paying attention to it. We had the end of the season. We had coaching changes. We had playoff games, and Justin Fields looked fine to me, but it wasn't the same guy that we saw against Clemson. And to the extent that there was any steam out there building that maybe he could somehow make the Jaguars think twice, that went out the window, because for as good as he was in the semifinal game, he was a non-factor in the championship game. So he's still number 2 at best. Trevor Lawrence is number 1.
I think so. Again, the Final Four performance against Clemson was great. There's no doubt. You see the talent. You can see that the potential, everything that's there, even on a night like last night where it wasn't perfect. But what we saw last night is something that kind of pops up with Justin Fields just every now and then, and it's coachable. You can clean it up. It's not like, oh no, I have real concerns about this guy. No, not at all. Big, strong, smart. Looks like a Dak Prescott out there to me, but faster in a lot of ways. But you do see every now and then, and we even saw this about 3-4 weeks ago before they got into the Big Ten Championship, or even in the Big Ten Championship, of just throws where you go, damn, he's too good to miss that throw. I think about, like, the second series of the game, Mike. I don't know if you remember. He had a little shallow cross. Guy's going to catch the ball and run for a touchdown. They ended up scoring. He made other great throws to get them down there. But just little, like, should be a slam dunk, consistent type throw still needs work with Justin Fields. So there is some things there, I think, with his throwing mechanics that could be fixed and adjusted a little bit. You heard me talk about it the other day. There's a little extra movement in his arm, and that's, I think, something to watch for as we get ready for the draft and do all that stuff.
Well, and look, they had to be perfect last night in their offensive execution to match Alabama. It was like a tennis match early on. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. And we were talking before the show, when they were held to a field goal and it was 21-17, that was it. That was the moment. And then it just went from there. Next thing you know, it's 28-17. Then it's 35-17. And they didn't give up. They kept fighting. They kept trying. But it was just two different qualities of roster on the field last night, and I think that it keeps Justin Fields where he is. Now, he may not be number 2 now after seeing what Devonta Smith did. Just in the first half, over 200 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, player of the game, and he exited early in the third quarter with a dislocated finger that I think they were having a hell of a time with. I think at one point they were talking about taking him to the hospital with the dislocated finger.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that's something now that hey, you enter the draft and welcome to whatever the scouting combine is going to be this year, but they're going to be making sure that finger is fine, because without both hands and all fingers, you can't generate the kinds of numbers we've seen. That is obscene, Chris.
Insane.
What this guy has done. It's unbelievable. I look at Week 10. How in the hell did he have a game with only 3 catches and 22 yards? That stands out. The other games are phenomenal, over the top, and he saved his best for last in the championship game. In one half, he had 215 yards, 12 catches, and 3 touchdowns. Here's my thought on this, and I have not studied this carefully, but when I see a guy who's of slight build, who is running around like crazy in the college level, running around untouched, I think of Desmond Howard.
Yeah.
And I think of what happened to Desmond Howard when he came to the NFL level. And then all of a sudden, and if you've seen the movie The Best of Times, Jack Dundee, played by Robin Williams, lines up against the guy known as Dr. Death. And that guy just keeps jamming him and throwing him down into the ground, and he can never get off the line of scrimmage. Well, until the very end of I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen The Best of Times. I watched it again not that long ago. It doesn't hold up well. It was a disappointment. But yeah, I'm sorry. 36 years is the amount of time that we'll go on the spoiler. But anyway, do you have that concern that this guy's just not big enough to deal with what he's going to face at the NFL level when he splits wide, and there's a guy there ready to hit him like he's never been hit before and keep him from getting into his route?
It's going to be the number one thing probably talked about with him. But, with the protection of receivers and, the protection of players over the middle, not hitting defenseless receivers, all those type of things, I don't think it's as much as a worry as maybe it was 15, 20 years ago with that type of guy. And we've seen a lot of Deshaun Jackson, Hollywood Brown type of guys come in the NFL, and because they're such phenomenal athletes and so fast, they know how to protect themselves and stay out of harm's way. So I don't look at it as an issue anymore. And I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to be making his money, running over the middle a whole lot anyways, as far as, in between linebackers and making those type of catches. But, I mean, the explosive ability is just, it's off the charts, right? To me, the thing that I'm amazed by with Devonta Smith is just, it looks like he's jogging, and everybody else is like behind him running full speed, like, oh, I can't. And he's like, just, it doesn't look like he's breaking a sweat, but yet he's flying because you can just tell the amount of ground he's chewing up. I mean, he is definitely a top 10 pick. And now it's going to be like, is he a top 5 pick for one of these teams that's got a quarterback that's got a real need at wide receiver?
Yeah, and look, and the Devontae Adams tweet is awesome. From now on, if you spell my name, make sure it's Devontae because he's that boy. And you know what happens? You're going to have people in these organizations that obsess over the measurables, and you're going to have people say he's too slight. He needs, will his frame allow him to thicken up like a Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill's thick, even though he's not big. He's got a thickness to him that a Deshaun Jackson doesn't have. And you're right, Deshaun Jackson's had a great career, and he can get off the line of scrimmage. My main concern is getting off the line of scrimmage, but there's all sorts of motion and stuff that they can do to allow him to get an opening where he's already got a running start and you can't keep up with him. And if he's going in motion, if he goes into the backfield, there's so many things a creative coach could do with Devonta Smith at the NFL level. I think that is the thing that will vault him into the upper levels of the draft this year.
Agreed.
And it could go as high as number 2. Not necessarily to the Jets. Yeah. But you know what? If the Jets are going to keep Sam Darnold, maybe he's your guy at number 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, it's all dependent on, what position is, got a lot of guys that are high-level guys, the ranking order of the draft, where is there a lot of depth? It depends on how good of receivers that are going to be in the draft, in the first-round conversation. If he's one of maybe only 2 or 3 guys in that conversation, then yeah, he might be in the top 5 or top 10 like that, just because people are going to go, wait, we got to get him now. And when you look at teams like the Jets and the Dolphins with, yes, young quarterbacks, I mean, we don't know what the Jets are going to do. That makes sense in a lot of ways. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles sitting at number 6. Yeah, I mean, we talked about they need a wide receiver, definitely. So there's definitely going to be play for a guy like Devonta Smith, because football has become just like all the other sports. It's homers and strikeouts. That's what it is. It's all about big plays and shifting field position, and Devonta Smith is one of those guys in a punt return, a slant, a screen behind the line of scrimmage. He can change the field position or just go ahead and flat out score. And that's special. Game breakers are in need more than ever in the NFL right now.
You make a great point, though, about the concentration of total receivers, because why do you burn a top 5 pick on Devonta Smith if there's a Chase Claypool lurking in round 2 potentially?
Yeah, right.
It's almost like with running backs now with receivers, and this gets back to the old 7-on-7s from the time they're 13 years old, all those quarterbacks throwing passes. Plenty of guys running routes and catching passes and developing and improving. And the next thing you know, they're ready to enter the NFL. And there's too many other positions to get all the good receivers taken early. Teams have different needs. There are great players in all shapes and sizes. And somehow a guy like a DK Metcalf lingers to the bottom of round 2. So that's part of the balance. That gets into that running back conversation. Like, do we have to use a top 10 pick on a running back? We can get a running back anywhere. Do we have to use a top 5 pick on Devonta Smith? We can get a receiver that's, not as good, but
barely less later, below, right? And we get 2 extra draft picks for trading down and doing it right. I mean, that's what you got to balance.
And this other guy's 6'3", and he's 220, and he's got an NFL body already. And this idea of, is he going to hold up?
Sure.
That's not going to be a factor for us. There's all sorts of issues like that will come up as they begin the process of scouring over all of these college players in a truncated season for a lot of teams. It's going to be harder than ever for these scouts to make good decisions, reliable decisions, especially when you consider we don't know what the combine's going to be. Will there be pro days again? It's going to be very hard to get the full body of information that scouts have had in past years. It's going to be a lot like last year. Last year may even be better in many ways than this year was, because at least last year they had the full scouting combine before the world turned upside down.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.